Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I got a fascinating story, a fascinating perspective on the psychology that is Ethan Klein, because I was going to do a story about this mass robbery that took place in a California Nordstrom. I was going to talk about how they stole the entire display from this Nordstrom and how ridiculous the video was, but then I just felt like I was losing touch, and I didn't really want to make this video because I've made it so many times. It's not all that interesting, but then out of nowhere, H3H3 Productions on the podcast, Ethan himself decided to make the case, quite literally, that all criminals are in fact Aladdin. And I am not joking about this. He actually said it. His whole entire take on this topic is idiotic, so that's what we're going to talk about today. The Nordstrom looting, but also Ethan Klein actually believing the joke reference that I made on this channel, or make on this channel, for the past few years, that all criminals are Aladdin. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Signed up, actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And to my podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
A major robbery, 30 people in the Valley, the Topanga Mall over the weekend.
Right. What? The Topanga Mall?
Yeah, dude, it was nuts, man.
Wait, why didn't I hear about that? What happened? 30 people?
30 people.
30 people all committed a robbery together.
Yeah.
What did they rob?
Nordstrom.
They have a party after you
Nordstrom.
guys?
Is there a video of it?
Yeah,
I
there is.
believe so, yeah.
That's
Well-
awesome, dude.
Okay, Topanga Mall, that's the mall I always go to with my kids, with my family.
Same here.
So the setup for this is that Ethan's crew has brought it to his attention that there was a robbery, a flash mob robbery of around 30 people at a Nordstrom in Topanga Mall. Now this should hit a little close to home for one Ethan Klein, since apparently this is the mall that he likes to take his family to. However, that is not going to make his takes any less stupid, and in fact, actually maybe is making them even more stupid.
I'm there all the time.
VIP high roller at that.
But they
Lakers
weren't
store.
they weren't like packing heat or anything. They just mobbed it, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. That's less scary.
It also happened at Century City the other week.
Yeah.
They robbed the Gucci store there.
And at Glendale, Galleria, a bunch of people robbed. I think it was like YSL.
So right here, Ethan is trying to make a moral delineation from people who commit just a smash and grab theft under the threat of violence. That's what people feel when 30 people storm into a store in order to take merchandise, versus when people come in armed with a weapon. And his crew member that is off camera at this point in time says, well, no, they weren't armed. It was just like a smash and grab. There was no threat of violence. Nobody got hurt. More on that a little bit later after they double down about 14 times on that position.
Here it is. Topanga Mall, Nordstrom's robberies. 60 to 100,000 stolen.
Damn,
What?
that's crazy.
The giggle.
I mean, listen.
I used to work next to this Nordstrom.
Anti-capitalist Dan going,
So you could already hear from Ethan's tone about the 60 to 100K being stolen from this, and from Dan, the bald guy behind the camera, that they're not taking this problem seriously. They think it's no big deal. They're okay with the theft. And if you think I'm doing a bit of mind reading, remember, I've watched this entire clip, and they're going to explicitly say all of the things, just in slightly different words, that I just said to you right there.
We were
Gorgeous mall.
We were supposed to
Gorgeous.
go over the weekend, but I'm like, thank God I didn't. you
yeah.
know?
Well, I don't think they mugged anyone.
Yeah,
right?
nothing would happen.
No, but still, you know.
I mean, it's Nordstrom's. They'll recover. Gucci, they'll recover.
What I'm seeing is just mob-style smash and grab robbery.
So they go on to talk about how this is a popular mall in the area. They've all been there. One of Ethan's crew members actually was going to go there this weekend, and he's happy that he didn't because of all the chaos. And Ethan, of course, says, well, it's Nordstrom, it's Gucci, referencing another store that had a flash mob robbery a week earlier. They'll recover. And this is their way of saying, oh, these are luxury stores. They'll be totally fine, excusing the theft, pretending like it's not a problem, not factoring in that when these stores eventually close, and you can look at the state of malls in the United States of America, and this only helps to further that state, that the employees at these stores will be out of luck. If you have money invested in Nordstrom, and I'm not talking about your big ticket investors, I'm talking about small investors who have pensions or whatever, when their stock prices go down, that affects you. When prices go up, that also affects the consumer. When problems happen with these stores closing and there's reduced foot traffic, if you happen to own a booth or the various small businesses or other businesses in the mall because people don't want to go where places are unsafe, that is going to also affect you. They pay no mind to the fact that this kind of theft has a ripple effect on the communities where it occurs. And there's a reason why that these kind of stores, these kind of malls, these kind of large scale operations don't open up in bad neighborhoods. And it's because bad neighborhoods typically have higher rates of theft. So people in those neighborhoods have to go further in order to commute to work. They don't have access to grocery stores as much as somewhere where there isn't much theft, and it creates a bunch of additional problems.
Well, here it is, guys. Feast your eyes. This is what California hellscape looks like, Texas.
Let's go.
I'm leaving. Jesus, man. Oh, yeah, how do you get this many people together who are down for this? Is there a Facebook group or something?
That's what I'm wondering. Is it a
Nordstrom
club?
Smash
Is it a
and Grab on
party
August
scene?
13th?
Group.
There was Storm Area 51, Storm Nordstrom.
Listen, times are hard, man. I mean, that's
Swipe
all
up if
this
you're
tells me.
interested, maybe.
So again, you have Ethan downplaying this. You have Ethan talking about how times are hard. That's what this tells him, which again is obviously one of the more idiotic things that you could put forward. Times are hard if you're some of the people that are working at these retail stores, if you're some of the people who are being assaulted by these criminals. By the way, that happened in this case. We'll get to that in just a second. Times are hard when you lose your job to this theft, and then you have smug, wealthy idiots like Ethan Klein, people working in an air-conditioned studio who buy everything off of Amazon, saying, oh, well, it's no big deal because that's a big corporation. Please don't touch our stuff. This is a terrible attitude. What if Ethan was there with his family, his wife and his kid, and they got assaulted by these criminals who, again, acted violently in this violent flash mob robbery? On top of that, he doesn't understand that when 30 people get together and they do one of these quick and dirty smash and grabs, that is an organized hit. This is organized crime that he's witnessing, but he's just pretending that these are just kind-hearted, good people. And like I said, it's going to get even more ridiculous as we progress through this video.
And they got away, huh? There's a lot of police in the valley, then no one... Huh. Oh, there they are. A little too late there. What is he, on his cell phone? What are you doing, man? Get to work. Now's not a time for chit-chat.
So I just want to point out that if Ethan wasn't an idiot, if his whole cast and crew weren't complete and utter buffoons, they might have taken note of the fact that there's an ambulance present there, because as a part of this robbery, as a part of this crime, this organized retail theft, they actually sprayed something into the face of the security guard that was working there in order to disable him.
Police say in this case someone used some sort of a spray to debilitate the security guard. Sadly, this has happened before. Back in 2021, 5 or so people robbed the Nordstrom here and used a spray as well, which caused the area to be evacuated.
It wasn't enough that they had a 30-to-1 advantage. These cowards, these thugs, these criminals also had to assault the security guard there. So you have a guy who's being injured for merchandise by these criminals who have no value for human life. On top of that, imagine if other employees try to confront these people. We've seen these stories happen before where they end up getting seriously injured or ultimately end up getting killed, and you understand the compulsion to want to stop these thieves, because eventually that's what's going to lead to you losing your job, your source of income, you actually going on hard times.
Robberies like this are a symptom of difficult times. So I don't really get mad at robbers like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucked up. It'd be more fucked up, frankly, if they were like going into homes, into small businesses. Still wrong and scary.
So Ethan says, oh, it's hard times and all that. It's no big deal. It's just hard times. And this just shows me it's rough out there. And he's not mad at these people. I mean, it would be way worse if they're going into small businesses. By the way, these organized retail thieves are going into and obliterating small businesses, or if they're burglarizing people's homes. Now, fortunately, burglarizing people's homes is still a crime that's prosecuted relatively seriously. So one of the things that we've noticed in the data is that in places where they don't take retail theft seriously, like in the city of New York, like in California, because they have that state law that says that you have to be a violent felon. And by the way, they classify a bunch of what used to be violent felonies as misdemeanors now to serve any prison time, is that retail theft specifically is what's on the rise. I mean, mean, this chart that I put out from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, which specifically references New York City, shows us, and by the way, this includes the 2008 recession, which was the largest recession since the Great Depression, hard times and tough times, that what we're seeing now is significantly different than what we saw before. We saw a slight uptick in thefts during the greatest recession in the history of our country, but now, post-COVID and continuing to this day, we're seeing a net 77% increase in retail theft in the city of New York. Now in California, depending on the area, there are similar increases in specifically retail theft, and this is also due to public policy, not due to this rampant desperation that's out there in the ether that's turning these kind-hearted, would-have-been-a-doctor kind of people into criminals.
There's no victim.
Right.
Really.
They got
Unless you
insurance.
call Gucci. And I guess people got scared. But
It's scary.
It's scary.
It'd be scary, yeah, to be in there.
So right there, they say there's no victim. Honestly and genuinely, one of the more idiotic beliefs from the left. And all I have to say is if somebody broke into H3 Studios and stole all their expensive equipment, Ethan and other people vested in that venture would definitely feel like the victim. If somebody broke into their Teddy Fresh, which, by the way, prices their clothes extraordinarily expensively, a la Nordstrom, and considering they don't have a storefront to operate, there's no real justification for that. If they stole all of their stuff, Hila and Ethan would feel like the victims of that because they would be victimized. So stealing is in fact wrong, even if you do it from a corporation, and they need to take that seriously. On top of that, a security guard was injured. Now, they didn't care to check into it. They just wanted to say that all these people were innocent Aladdins and it's okay to do theft because this is what is known as a luxury belief, a belief that shows status among elite left-wingers that actually costs them nothing to say, but the people actually affected by this feel the impacts of these beliefs. They can't afford to have this in such a I'm on a podcast kind of way, because if you work at this store and you end up getting fired when it's closed, and that store is an anchor to the mall, and that has impact on all the other stores that are in that mall, then you can't adopt the idea that this is no big deal, nothing to worry about. But Ethan could do that because he's sitting in a studio, air-conditioned in California, not having to deal with the consequences of this, because his business is online in the digital economy, and it's hard for people to steal his content.
Pretty crazy, man. I mean, I got to assume you got to be in a pretty bad situation to be down for this because...
Again, Ethan is watching a segment. Maybe it's because they're playing it silently in the background where you see an ambulance. What do you think that ambulance is for? That's for the injured security guard who was injured trying to fight off this smash and grab robbery. Somebody who was sprayed in the face by these criminals who were ready to commit violence. A lot of these incidents, when people confront them, end up in serious injury and or murders. But Ethan is totally fine with that because it's just Nordstrom. I mean, that person wanted to make an honest living working as a security guard. All these other people working retail that are defending their jobs by defending the store that they work at wanted to make an honest living. So obviously we're going to say that their rights are subordinate to the organized retail thieves who are opportunistic scumbags, repeat offenders that are participating in organized crime. But again, we haven't even got to the absolute best portion of this.
If you have a good job, you're not doing this.
Nah.
You're just not doing it. That's my theory, anyway. You know what I mean?
Ethan, you're so unbelievably ignorant and dumb, it's kind of amazing. The reason why a person with a good job isn't participating in this organized retail theft is not because, but for the good job, they would be a criminal or in a criminal gang. The reason why is because the foresight, the impulse control, all of the things that led that person to build themselves up to the point where they can get a good job is what is preventing them from stealing from these places. These people are going for quick, instant gratification, the thuggish, brutish tactic. They could not get a good job because they don't have the foresight, the ingenuity, and the ambition in order to do so. I talked about this in my conversation with Sam Cedar about how in the city of New York, the population that is the most in public housing is actually the Hasidic Jews, you know, the ones with the hats and the Russian coats, and yet they have almost no crime in their community. This is because they have strong community bonds, and oftentimes, even though they start out in poverty, they're working towards something. The same is true for Asian Americans. A lot of them come to this country poorer than the general population. population. But guess what? They have a mindset to succeed. They are working towards a good job. Their parents might be working some crappy, very difficult position, like a lot of the Asian people that I know, but they're doing that because they value the education and the success of their children, and there's expectations that they will do the right thing. That is what makes them successful. That's what leads them to the good job, and it also leads them to not go down the criminal path. People who don't have that within them, who don't have a good community structure that looks down on this, people who embrace Ethan's ideology that it's just Nordstrom, it's just $100,000 worth of merchandise, it's just theft and all that, those people weren't going to be successful in the first place. We need to create strong deterrence in order to direct them in the right path, because obviously the normal societal guardrails do not apply to these people who are acting in such a deviant way.
If you have a good job, you're not doing this.
No.
You're just not doing it. That's my theory anyway. You know what I mean? Guys, and if you disagree, remember Aladdin, okay? Aladdin and his monkey.
And the bread.
They were stealing
Abu.
bread. Were they bad people?
No, they were not.
If you ask the street merchants, they were ready to chop his head off.
Right. But he had a heart of gold.
Yes, in living color, in HD, Ethan of H3H3 Productions just went with, unironically, the all criminals are Aladdin line of argumentation. The exact joke that I've made about the left to mock their beliefs, their embrace of the criminal, their excusing crime with the excuse of poverty, Ethan just put it forward as a legitimate argument. Now, quick correction, Ethan, you dumbass who hasn't seen Aladdin in a long time. The merchants were trying to cut off Aladdin's hand because that was a punishment back in the day for stealing, not cut off his head. You should really pay attention to the movie before you reference it. But yeah, he's actually going with they're stealing $100,000 worth of merchandise, attacking a security guard because they're trying to feed their starving children.
And a lot of love.
Street rat riff raff. I don't buy that.
Street rat, riff raff. I don't buy that. Rat hole. That's a great movie, man.
Yes,
That's one of the great ones.
One of the greats.
These people are beyond parody. Occasionally when I'm making videos, I put forward a dumb, ridiculous, absurd argument to the contrary, and when I'm editing, I think to myself, would anybody on the left wing with a huge platform actually put this argument forward? And each and every single time I leave that in, I put that in the video and I go forward with it, they prove me right. That becomes their exact argument. That becomes their exact position that they're going to go for. And never did I imagine that Ethan would actually go for the all criminals are Aladdin argument. Never did I imagine that the joke, the thing I used to mock these people for the idiots that they are, would not be sufficient because they are actually beyond how stupid I could have imagined them to be.
Oakland, state of mind. What's happening here?
These are like the smash and grabs that are going on near San Francisco. It's wild. This guy's just doing it right in front of the person.
Oh, that's their car?
Yeah, I believe
Dude
so.
just pulled over. His license plate. He's got his plates out and everything.
Yep.
Wow.
His gas cap is open. Somebody should let him know.
Sir, excuse me.
Sir, excuse me, your gas cap.
Maybe they stole it from a gas station while someone's filling up.
No.
He's like, need help with your
Just
bag?
a little forgetful.
Yeah.
There's actually another video on this page of someone doing that.
Dude doesn't even know what's in the damn suitcase.
Now, there's a reason I left this clip in here in particular. The Aladdin clip, obviously. That's what I'm going to clickbait about. That's what I'm going to make fun of Ethan about. That's what I'm going to do something related to this title about. But the sympathy for the thieves over the innocent person goes beyond that. This is a guy, suitcase in his bag, likely a tourist visiting Oakland. Maybe he's there on a business conference. He's being robbed in broad daylight. They smash the back of his window, possibly a rental car. They take his entire suitcase out through force, through intimidation, and Ethan's laughing about it. He's having a good time.
Why?
I don't know. That's what's in suitcases. Isn't
Why
it?
do you think that?
These are the same people who adopt these luxury beliefs that will wonder why these places don't have grocery stores, why these places have low hotel occupancy, why these places have pharmacies closing, and all these other issues based on the theft, but they'll never put two and two together that this is the reason for it, that this is what is going on in the cities that they support. Ethan even mocked the idea of leaving California over this, but the thing is, in California, you don't just have people on talk shows like like Ethan Klein stating these positions, taking these luxury beliefs and making them their own. You have people with money doing this, people who donate to political campaigns, people who advocate to keep the same policies in place that drive these people into poverty. You want to be in a neighborhood where this happens? Likely not. Guess what? Real estate prices are going to go down. You want to open a business in this area? Likely not. And if you do, guess what? Your insurance premiums are going to go up. You're going to face all sorts of extra costs that are going to disincentivize you from wanting to work here. And contrary to Ethan's myth making, this does happen to small businesses. And by the way, the people who are most robbed happen to be poor people in these areas that are doing the right thing. If you make under $10,000 in the United States of America, you are among the poorest households in this nation, then you're actually 206% more likely to face a violent criminal victimization than if you were to make over $75,000. Studies from not only the United States of America, but from the United Kingdom have shown repeatedly that the concern or the fear of being victimized by violent criminals goes up dramatically as somebody's income goes down. So what we're watching right here is a visual representation of that data. Ethan Klein is a multi-millionaire, so he's laughing off the victimization of other people. Meanwhile, those people in that salary range are exponentially more fearful of being victimized, and it is true that they are significantly more likely to be victimized by the very criminals that Ethan Klein is labeling Aladdin. On top of that, when you talk about thieves, burglars, robbers, muggers, and all that, this idea that they're robbing wealthy houses in affluent neighborhoods is a total misnomer. Sure, the chances of you getting a higher value stuff from those places might be higher, but the criminals don't typically know those neighborhoods. So the risk of getting caught outweighs the potential for increased benefits. They also have better security systems and all that. And if you don't have a security system, you're 300% more likely to be victimized by a burglary than if you did have a security system. Oftentimes what we find out is that criminals rob, burglarize places in their own neighborhoods or equivalent neighborhoods, or sometimes, and this is very likely, much more likely than affluent areas, neighborhoods that are worse off. So Ethan Klein's position, where he's trying to be sympathetic and he says they're Aladdins and he's all for the poor, could not be more cruel to the poor if he was trying to intentionally. So as you go down on the income spectrum, you are more likely to be attacked. And these people will pretend that they're supporting those in poverty when they're actually supporting the perpetrators who victimize those in poverty and keep areas in poverty due to their unchecked criminality.
Good thing I barely leave my house, so
Yeah.
chances are low. Golly, gee willikers, man. It's a troubled world out here. But at the end of the day, there's not enough space in prisons, right? Like, what the F? Should we really be putting these people in prison? I don't know.
The world is not
It's all
anymore
messed
the way
up.
it used to be.
I got to assume that the DA in San Francisco did it because, like, the cost and the space is just not there.
So Ethan Klein again continues his unchecked streak of being completely uninformed about what he's talking about. So under California law, by a court decision actually, not by a law, but although there are laws in order to put this decision into effect, California has to reduce their prison population due to the fact that they have high prison density. And if you're convicted of what they categorize as a non-violent crime, you can only be sent to the county jail. So what happens is repeat offenders, like the case of the guy who committed 77 burglaries, end up being released after just months because the county jail doesn't have enough space to compensate for these offenders. The solution would be to build more prisons, have more space so that you can constitutionally hold these people down who are committing crimes, who are the repeat offenders. And this is not only good because it gets these people off the streets, but it's also good because if you actually spread prisoners out, you don't have such dense prison populations, violence goes down from within the prison. So even if you wanted to keep prison population exactly the same for some arbitrary reason, it still makes practical sense to spread the prisoners out, build more prisons in order to compensate for this.
If I'm speaking out of turn here, then I apologize.
It's a nice car.
What's with the damn the suitcase?
Dude, I was terrified all weekend. Every DM I got was do not leave anything in the car.
Well, San Francisco's a big city.
So again, look, they're showing videos of individual people being victimized. Tourists in the state of California being targeted, likely due to their rental car plates. They just pop open the trunk, they end up stealing something, and it's their suitcases, by the way. This might have their passports if they're international tourists or other things that are important to people, and they're just laughing it off. They're like, oh, it's no big deal.
In the car.
Well, San Francisco's a big city.
I mean, it's.
Do not
You're from Detroit, dude, and you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You're not.
Listen, my
You're
brother-in-law,
fine.
who's from Detroit, who lives in San Fran now, was like, yo, he literally came outside. He's like, I'm here to help you guys. I don't want you to leave anything in the car. And he's like in a super nice area. Like there's like CEOs that live around him. I don't know what the hell's going on.
So first things first, Detroit is obviously more dangerous than San Francisco by the numbers in terms of violent crime, in terms of homicide, and in terms of robbery. However, car break-ins are higher in the city of San Francisco, and since they're not prosecuted, the same people are breaking into cars over and over and over again.
Do not
You're from Detroit, dude, and you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You're not.
Listen, my brother-in-law, who's from Detroit.
Also, and I need to give this caveat because it's incredibly important, a lot of people who say they used to live in Detroit lived in the nice area of Detroit or a suburb in the Detroit metro area. They're not actually in the city proper. So a lot of people will say that, oh, it's nicer over there in the neighborhoods I was, but they never went to the horrible neighborhoods that have the leading in the nation murders in the United States of America in terms of Detroit. They only went in maybe to go see something like the automotive factory. Maybe they worked there and then they left back to the burbs and they didn't actually experience it, but they say they live in the Detroit area because it's the Detroit metro area. That's what I think possibly is going on with this guy right here. So his perspective might be skewed in terms of overall violent crime. That being said, car thefts in San Francisco are off the charts, and this is due to the fact that it's not prosecuted. And look at who's being robbed, and look at the same reaction from Ethan and his crew. They're laughing about it. They're enjoying it. If you're one of these sad people who decided to visit one of America's once great cities, and you lost your important worldly possessions to these thugs and criminals, they're going to take the side of the thugs and criminals. That's who they are, because again, they don't have to experience it. It is a luxury belief that they're utilizing in order to denote status, in order to make themselves look better to their friends without actually ever addressing the problem.
That is crazy, though. Goddamn. I mean, it sucks. I don't have a solution. Hey, I'm not running for governor. Don't vote for me. Not my problem. Talk to Gavin Newsom about it.
How about you advocate for a solution, Ethan? How about you point out that this is unacceptable behavior? How about you tell your idiotic left-wing audience, which, by the way, you share with Jenk's nephew, who also cheers on the criminality that he himself doesn't have to deal with on a daily basis, that this is wrong, this is immoral. How about you advocate for a change in the law? You do that for things that you care about, but when it comes to victims of crime, all of a sudden, you're nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, you're on a vacation. All of a sudden, you're too busy praising the people, the predators, who end up victimizing them, pretending that nobody got assaulted in these violent attacks that you're showing on your stream, because that's who you are to your core. Somebody who would rather look good than do good. And that's your number one problem, Ethan. But hey, those are just my thoughts, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about H3H3 Productions completely failing. Till next time.